So both of our attorney buddies are in page 6 today under sightings. A very small mention, but a mention nevertheless. Legal Eagle Arthur Idala at the Friars Club. He's always there. He's friends with Stan Gilbert and all those guys. There's a bigger story about our boy Joe Tacopina. It's Sir Joe to you. Right underneath Emily Smith's name, yes. Joe is the king of Venice, turns out, and he is by the Knights of San Marco. I'm not sure if he's been dubbed yet, but if he's not, he will be very shortly. And he will be Sir Joe Tacopina. I guess he's good buddies with the mayor of Venice, too. So this is quite the honor. So let's welcome him in, maybe for the first time ever, as Sir Joe Tacopina. Good morning. Look at you, from Bedford Avenue in Brooklyn to being knighted in Venice, Italy.
I mean, if you would have said, when we were doing that carpool on Bedford Avenue, the two most likely to not succeed at Poly Prep in Brooklyn.
That's right, you and I.
If I would have been dubbed a knight in Italy,
no,
or Godzilla would have conquered New York, I think it would have been more realistic to think Godzilla would have conquered New York.
Yeah. Well, my dad said it. He's even after you penned up the back seat of his brand new Cadillac, he said that kid's going places. So, congratulations. Have you been?
Listen, I don't want you guys. Yeah, I've been knighted. I'm a knight. As a matter of fact, I don't want you guys to call me Sir Joe. You don't have. Just Sir is fine.
Sir, yes, sir.
So it already took place. Was there a ceremony? They cut your finger, or what happened?
No, it's not an organized crime. They don't give blood and burn the
They put a sword on his head, and they say...
No, I know Italian thing to you means organized crime. The knights is not a family.
Yeah.
It's a very prestigious, regal organization, ties back to the Venetian Republic, the Italian Republic in the 1700s. So anyway, yes. Tish, of course, will not call me sir, which is disappointing.
Right. Well, your wife won't do that. No chance. No chance. But she loves you. But I thought you were a big star in Milan. I didn't realize it was Venice.
Venice, yeah. No, Milan, I mean, I have nothing going on in Milan except the restaurant with Idala.
Right.
That was one of our great investments that we made together.
So listen, have they cleaned up the water there in Venice, or what's the deal there?
Listen, the funniest story about that is, and the answer is no, I mean, because you can't see through it, but when I was a tourist in Venice, when we had the twins, Matt and Joe Little, we were in the gondola, and they had those little plugs or binkies or pacifiers, whatever you call them, and they dropped out of their mouths into the floor, and I picked them up, and I put them in the water, rinse them off, and put them back in their mouths, and I remember the gondolier is screaming at me like, no! And since then, they've been blessed with, they have Venetian blood because they had these cold sores for about 20 years after that.
Yeah. It's like the Gowanus Canal.
Basically, yeah.
Basically, yes, basically.
Well, congratulations, Joe. That's a big, big honor. We're happy for you. Hey, let's get to this story. You know, last week, I'm like, no more Starbucks because they're allowing junkies to shoot up in the bathroom. No more New York Times because they put Nazi cartoons in there about Donald Trump. And then I see the cast of Empire all standing around Jussie Smollett, defending him now. He's our guy. We want him back. Even though anybody with half a brain knows that the guy is guilty. In fact, Kim Fox, in power there in Chicago, she's been subpoenaed. What do you think that means?
It means she's in trouble. I mean, look, the office is undergoing an investigation, an independent inspector general investigation on how she handled the case. I mean, for that to happen in a high-profile case, I mean, you have to have a prosecutor who's just looking to have a political death wish on their career. I mean, it was really ridiculous. I mean, what is the evidence? The bottom line is they didn't even explain why they were just out of the blue dismissing this case.
That's right.
After a grand jury indicted, they just did it. They didn't say because the evidence wasn't there, because we found that these two guys were lying. I mean, they have two witnesses without a motive to lie who come forth and said he paid them to do what you know, many people know happened, which was to, you know, fake attack him and cause him to be victimized. The funniest part is he took a victory lap after they dismissed the cases, like he was proven innocent. But this case is far from over. I mean, I think the feds are going to get involved, and I think this Inspector General office is going to do something. But, you know, I mean, I've never seen a city sue an individual before either. So, you know, the city of Chicago is suing Smollett. The PD is suing Smollett. So this guy's got some problems. And for anyone to be embracing someone who did something so horrific is really despicable, because it really wasn't, aside from obviously the racial undertones of it, it also minimizes the people who are really truly victims of race haters and things like that. It's disgusting, despicable all around.
Yeah, the guy's clearly a mutt, but and it would make sense for them to sue him for the money that they spent investigating a crime that didn't really happen. But this Kim Fox, she did recuse herself, and it's not unusual for them to drop charges because they thought maybe they overcharged this guy. So what could she possibly be on the hook for?
Well, apparently there was some dealings. Apparently she had some conflict that was clear. I mean, they've cited this conflict. I mean, I think that the judge who's running this investigation said the conflict is beyond dispute, because, she should have had appointed a special prosecutor to deal with this case from the get-go. And what they're claiming is that she misled the public into believing that Smollett's case was handled like any other case, when in fact it wasn't. Apparently she had a connection to him. There were conversations with his representatives and her, and I mean, it's exactly what's not supposed to happen.
It stinks.
And, out of the blue, you just dismiss the charges after a grand jury indicts. Without, when you dismiss charges, even on a case that's not a high-profile case. When I was a prosecutor, we dismissed charges after a grand jury indictment. You had to explain on the record for the judge, for the public, why you were doing that, for the victims, why you were doing that. And here you had no explanation at all. And that's what makes me very suspicious about this whole case.
Oh, I can't blame you. Is the Bob Kraft thing over with now up in, or I should say down in Jupiter, Florida? Where are we with that?
No, it's still going on. I mean, we're representing, as I told you, a lot of victims who are in there, doing nothing wrong and being videotaped by law enforcement in violation of the law. But that whole thing is just really, that case is a train wreck. And I see the armor starting to peel off the prosecution's case, because you have now, a videotape that was secured. They put that videotape in all the rooms. They didn't minimize it. In other words, they let it just run 24 hours straight, which is illegal, for 5 days. They didn't minimize to see if criminality was going on. And then more importantly, the way they got it was that they lied. I mean, the cop actually said there was human sex trafficking going on. Judge, therefore I need videotape surveillance authorized. And there was no human sex trafficking going on. They've admitted that now. Right. So it's a whole case. It's a case that we're spending way too much time, way too much money on, and really that was not brought in good faith. So I think it's, the end is near. I really think that.
I can't wait for you and Bob Kraft to sue their asses, to be quite honest with you. Hey, Sir Joe, I have to ask you about this. Of course, this Queens Wendy's massacre mastermind from 2000, Colin Ferguson, who's now 61, who massacred people on the Long Island Railroad, and Joe Rifkin. People like him, they may be available to be paroled, because once they turn 55, there's going to be a new law in New York State that says that people over 55, no matter if they have been sentenced to a life without parole or if they had a death sentence commuted, whatever it is, if you're over 55, according to the state assembly and the state senate, they got a bill up there, and it's going to pass, that these people will be eligible for parole. Now, the Staten Island DA says no good. The Queens DA says no good. But guess who says, I like this idea? Well, our old friend, the Brooklyn DA, Eric Gonzalez.
Well, listen, there is the notion of rehabilitation, and that's part of what our prison sentences are for, right? You rehabilitate and you allow someone to reenter society. That being said, I'm a defense attorney. I'll normally slant towards understanding the whole notion of forgiving and rehabilitating and giving someone a second chance. But when you slaughter so many innocent people, you have to spend the rest of your life in jail, period, end of story. He is never getting out. Colin Ferguson, just like I told you last week, when they were doing the motion to vacate the conviction on the jogger case in Queens.
Chanel Lewis, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, Chanel Lewis. I told you that was not going to work. It didn't work. This is not going to work. Whatever the modification of the law will be, it'll be looked at on a case-by-case basis. Colin Ferguson, a guy who slaughtered all those people, is never entering society again.
What about the cop killer that got out? The cop killer got out.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, on a case-by-case basis, every case has to be evaluated. I don't know enough about that case to explain it, but I got to tell you, I agree. Someone who kills someone, a law enforcement officer or otherwise, that's a premeditated first-degree killing, really, to me, should spend the rest of their life in jail, period. And
bottom line, that's it. Right.
If they're convicted, if the conviction is firm, if there are no, constitutional violations and everything else, if it's a true, honest conviction, then that's the end of it, because there's a family out there who will never get back individual loved one, whoever it's going to be. So I saw it on really.
On common sense.
Common sense, exactly.
Okay, well, common sense, but more of a conservative slant on that. But I get it. I get when someone's killing somebody, there are states that still have the death penalty, right? I mean, that's not what's happening here, but at least they should spend the rest of their life in jail. Again, unless there are mitigating circumstances, and again, it has to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Colin Ferguson will never see the light of day.
Yeah, I agree with you. Plus, he did such a good job defending himself. You must have been proud.
Sir Joe took notes.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Hey, quickly, 30 seconds. You read Wayne Copy's new book on the '69 Mets. You liked it?
Wow! I
really?
Put it down. It was amazing. Wayne Copy did a great job in making. I mean, it was like almost a game-by-game analysis. But that book, they said it couldn't be done, was amazing. It was a really great story. How Gil Hodges. But I mean, if you look at their numbers that year, the Mets. They didn't have a superstar in the lineup.
No.
I mean, they didn't have a 30-homer guy. They had nothing going on. I mean, they had Seaver and Guzman, and Gentry. But, man, oh, man, that was a great, great book. And it really makes you love that team even more and more.
Cool. I know Joe Favorito was trying to get me to read that this weekend. Hey, listen, Joe, as always, you're amazing. You're great. Congratulations on your Page 6 mention. Sergio Tacopina. We'll talk to you again next Monday, buddy. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, boys.
Big Joe.
Big Joe. We'll take a break. When we get back, we'll be discussing a lot of serious stuff. We went from Alan Dershowitz to Joe Tacopina. Well, rock and roll fans are going to love this. The lead guitarist of one of the most popular groups in the history of rock and roll, Gene Simmons' right-hand man, Paul Stanley from Kiss, on Bernie and Sid, right after this.